Welcome to another episode of Up with Upton here on Erupton.com. Today we are talking about Facebook, and not just the IPO, but how Facebook threatens to, as one recent CNN article states, zuck up the human race. What do you guys think overall about this statement that Facebook is essentially sabotaging what it really means to be human? It is stealing the innocence of our lives.
I mean, I don't know if it's stealing the innocence. It's definitely changing the way we interact, and it's making it a lot less interpersonal reliance and more like technology reliant. But that's happening in industries across the board, from the stock market to Facebook to, anything.
But is it just making us more reliant? Or, the article also argues that it's actually weakening us both as individuals and as a society. Is that something that has long-term repercussions that we should be worried about?
I saw a great quote a while ago that said, if you're depressed about your life, delete your Facebook. because all anybody posts on Facebook are those things that they really want to share. Because if there's something you don't want to share, something crap that's going on in your life or something that's just a bit lame, you wouldn't post it.
I think what Facebook plays to is kind of like this voyeurism tendency that we have as humans, that like we feel like we should be entitled to this information in the same way. Like, think about all the pieces of information you're entitled to about like reality TV stars' lives. It's like you want that from your friends too. Some of the younger generation, like, they post things when they're like being bullied, or they take
that's true.
For literally everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's funny because I remember when we were like finishing college in 2008, there was so much talk about what it means to be a digital native. Like, people were referring to this as really the first generation of digital natives, but the next generation, it's like digital natives on steroids. It's like
version 2.0.
Randy, is it digital natives or is it digital narcissism? The article back to the article talks about how, and I'll quote, "We have fallen in love with ourselves, but this is a super sad love story because the more we self-broadcast, the emptier we become. The emptier we become, the more we feel the need to self-broadcast." So, is there a downside to this, being a digital native?
I'm going to disagree with you slightly there. I'm going to say it's not digital narcissism. It's digital insecurity. It's when you post something of the amazing place that you're going, it's no longer enough for you to just be somewhere amazing. You need to have that validated by your social circle. And my clicking like on your picture in Bora Bora or something is actually my saying, hey, I think you're amazing. And the constant need for attention and reassurance from our friends is actually more a form of insecurity than vanity.
I've found actually that Twitter and things have helped me actually connect more with people, or, connect with people who I might not usually have got to connect with.
We spent a lot of time talking about like the skepticism and, what the cons are, but there actually are a lot of pros, which like it is a great tool for networking. It's, people that you connect with that 20 years ago you never in a million years would have connected with. It's an amazing job resource. Like, there are a lot of benefits too.
Right, but isn't Twitter just sort of a way of, and Facebook too, now that we are getting customized news feeds, of really just sort of validating the sort of content and the values and belief systems that we currently have? I mean, if you're a hardcore,
known as the filter bubble.
Yeah, exactly, Randy. Yeah. I know you read the book too. It's called The Filter Bubble by Eli Pariser. And, he sort of argues that if you're a registered Democrat, you're not going to see a whole lot of, Republican sorts of thoughts and opinion columns in your news feed. And ultimately, it's a little bit ironic because the more, and it's same with your Twitter feed, you're not going to follow somebody that is against your own values or someone you're not interested in.
It's the same as watching MSNBC or Fox.
Yeah,
but... and let me finish, Randy. What the problem in that is that Mark Zuckerberg said that 20 years ago, for example, you would care more about the squirrel in your front yard than the person dying in Africa, right? But through the internet, supposedly you're able to care just as much or ideally more about that person than you are about a squirrel. But what's happening is that while the internet was created to sort of open our minds to the world, in a way, we're actually all becoming in our own bubble. So do you agree with that?
Me? No, I don't. Because I think that also, there's something like when you look at politics, which is one of the more common examples of all of this, politics has always been considered a taboo subject, right? What are the things you never discuss with your best friends, with your dates, with your spouses? You don't discuss politics and religion, right? Those are always
right.
Oh, you do, Randy. It makes the most fun.
Well, exactly. So, like, I'm a good example of that. Is like, I'm a pretty hardcore conservative where most of my friends are Democrats. And there are topics, things we wouldn't talk about. But on Twitter and Facebook, that's all we do talk about. So it's kind of like it gave it a forum for topics that wouldn't be covered. And that's a breaking of the filter bubble.
I think it's all what you make of it. I mean, for example, when I do something frivolous, my friend might tag me in it, and I really don't care. But when I go, off by myself, I went on a road trip this fall with my dad. I did not post one picture from that trip because it meant something to me, and it was, in a way, very private. And I think that it's all the brand that you put out there. The things that I tweet about are not personal to me. It's frivolous things. The things I post on Facebook aren't really going to give you the best picture of who I am, and I'm okay with that because I'm not defined by my Facebook personality, by my Twitter handle, by my Instagram picture.
Mike, how do you sort of navigate, the difference between what you think should be private and
this is
public?
how I feel. If you have Facebook, it's more or less like you want to share things with people, if it's the public or if it's just who you want to share it with. And if you have, say, you don't use it, it's just you don't really care about telling your life about someone.
You guys have heard of this recent study by Philip Zimbardo and Nikita Duncan, who write about that there is an entire generation of young men who have been desensitized to reality by online gaming and pornography. But this author of the CNN article is advocating that actually they forgot a huge thing, and that they're actually also desensitized because of social media. Do you guys think that these sorts of things have desensitized them to reality, or has this become the new reality?
Let's talk honestly about what we think the video game effect is, right? Like, I remember the first big instance of this was when Columbine happened. Right? Everyone was like, oh, they played too many video games, they were exposed to too much violence, so the logical causation is they went and shot up a bunch of people at their school. Like, no, that was a trigger for some, like, really painful emotions they were harboring. So same sort of thing. I don't think you can blame social media. If people have, like, disproportionate conceptions of what's real, it's probably not because of social media. It's probably to some extent just fueled or exacerbated by social media, but I don't think it's the cause of this.
So, the show is called Up with Upton. We like to leave off on a high note. So I want to ask, what is the solution, sort of, both for people as individuals and for society? What is the solution to making sure that Facebook and social media doesn't sort of hurt and diminish the human race?
It's digital brand management, and it's the calculated and intentional monitoring of your online presence and who you interact with in that space, what sort of content you post, and
right. But that's completely how you're being conveyed externally. What about individually? As a person, how do you make sure that you are not, losing your sense of self?
I think that, from the beginning, when we went to kindergarten, we started with computer classes. I think that kids nowadays just need to be aware of the full spectrum of challenges that this new era, will present them with throughout their life.
I think ultimately, look, if your Facebook or Twitter usage is preventing you as a child from picking up a ball and going to the park to play outside, you have problems that extend far beyond the reach of social media. It's actually fundamental flaws in the way that you're being raised. So, look at that before you blame social media. It's not really the concepts that are changing, it's just the means that we do things.
Right, but Randy, you say that as that's such a, specific kind of person who lives in the basement in Arkansas, but, the average kid these days are growing up with 10 to 12...
I live next to Arkansas. Don't be rude.
The average kid right now is in front of a screen anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day. I mean, this isn't such an isolated thing.
That's the problem, right? And look, I say this as someone who works in front of a computer for 10 to 12 hours a day,
In front of an iPhone, too.
You have to make time for the things that are important, whether it be, physical activity, playing outside, whatever, interacting with people, so that if your social life is limited to Google Plus hangouts, like you have a problem, and there are
larger problems.
Social media and digital usage can't be a substitute for. Yeah, I mean, social media and digital activity can't be a substitute for human interaction. It needs to be just a new tool or a new resource that you have to enhance the things that you are already trying to achieve.
Andrew Keene sort of ends his piece
Who
by...
is on Twitter and who says follow me on Twitter at the end of his article.
Oh, wow. That's a good point.
Validated.
That's a very good point. You know, he says that he
After he slams it.
He does. So he gave up his Facebook, and he says he wants to encourage more people in this world to give up on Facebook, and he actually equates Facebook and social media to an addiction. He says you got to give it up. It won't be any easier than quitting smoking or kicking that online porn or gaming habit. So I guess final thoughts. Do we think he's do we disagree with him? Do we think he's extreme? What do you guys think?
I think again that I think his conclusion is a manifestation of his own digital insecurity more than anything else.
Okay, fair enough. Paul?
My head's spinning still thinking about online etiquette. I'm going back to so many, in my head I've just got social situations playing through where so many people have been so rude when it's like real life and it's like, stop checking your phone, stop checking your Facebook, we're here now. That's all I can think about.
Okay, Mike?
I think just a lot of people are jealous that he was a young person who made a ton of money, like Microsoft back in the day. People are pissed off that he made so much, so everyone badmouthed him, who was like angry that they could have like done something like it.
Okay, and Sarah?
I think that with anything, it's about balance and compromise between, you know, your digital self and your real human interactions. And as long as someone's secure enough in their real life, their digital life will never take over.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. And on that note, thanks for watching. You can follow us on Twitter at Erupton. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.